Hello, filmmakers, and welcome to the Wedding Film School AMA show, hosted by Jason McCutcheon and myself, Jared Haskell. This is the show where we answer your questions, directly diving into the creative, business, and personal aspects of running a successful wedding film brand. If you have a submission, feel free to connect at www.weddingfilm.school/AMA. All right, Jay, I'm coming in hot today. How are you doing?
I am still recovering from clarity. I got a bug, too. So I remember like the first night of the retreat, I was like, oh no, I'm losing my voice. And I was like, I have to speak in the morning. And I like went to the steam room and I did everything I could to not lose my voice. And I fought through it for the whole retreat. But like the night that thing was over, I remember Adam Grumbo coming to me and be like, hey, whatever it is that's trying to get you is going to get you right when this retreat ends. And I was like, no, I think I'm going to be. He was right. Like right after that retreat, I think I went to bed 8 o'clock for 3 straight nights.
Yeah.
I was so sick.
Well, I remember for the cocktail party, the first night, you were talking a lot. You were arguing with Aiden, of course. Everyone was like, ooh, it's getting spicy. And I was like, Jay's losing his voice. This is terrifying because if Jay isn't able to speak tomorrow, it's probably going to have to be me or Bobby. And we can't, come at the topics with the same unction as Jason. I feel
Nor
all the
did you do
pressure.
any preparation.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd be like, great, awesome. People spent a lot of money, came to Boston, and now they have to hear me give Jay's talk. Like, we're in trouble.
The notes would not have worked.
Yeah. So,
But no, it worked out, and the retreat was really good, though. What was your favorite part about Clarity?
I don't know about the favorite part, but I always just enjoy talking to other wedding filmmakers, people that I feel like as an adult, it's harder to meet people with like interests and just make friends quickly. I always make friends with filmmakers right away because there's just a million things that we have in common. And so, the camaraderie is always really great. I think that the course or it wasn't a course, but the talk that you did with Carrie about working with a wedding planner was one of the most important and best topics that I've heard spoken at a workshop ever. Like, I think the people that were there, like, that was the feedback we always heard is like, that was incredible. Like, I've never heard that before. So as far as like a topic, I would say that was probably my favorite because I think it was super novel and interesting. And, we do it with our business, but I think I even still took a lot away from it. And
You didn't know I was working on those angles.
Yeah, exactly. And Carrie's perspective was super unique, and she's great at speaking and has unique perspective. And
she's like the definition to me of like a new school planner in like every way, in all the good ways.
Yep.
Like in terms of her willingness to connect and collaborate, but also she's like in charge of the weddings. It's very interesting because like not every planner is going to be like that. And so if you didn't get a chance to go, we had a wedding planner come up and we talked about the ways that I collaborate, and it was really about finding your own people. And I think like, I hope what I wanted people to get out of it is like, be a little more assertive in your relationships and be like a little bit more like offer things to people, like actually bring value. And by bring value, I think a lot of people would be like, just drop a reel after the wedding without telling the person. And I'm like, no, like talk to them about what should be in the reel, what's important to them. But regardless, it was like my favorite part was definitely the type of people that came. It was, no offense, newbies. I love hanging out with you guys. But there are plenty of times when I'm talking to people who are new as a wedding filmmaker where they're like, but what camera is best quality? And you're like, as an experienced person, like, I don't even know how to answer the question. I'm just like, I don't know. Which camera can you afford? It's like, I don't know. Like, when you're having that discussion, honestly, it can be kind of draining. Mm-hmm. But when you're having a conversation with people who are like, this is what I'm dealing with. And we're all dealing with stuff. It's just really refreshing.
Yeah. I think if there were some newbies that came to Clarity, there's a potential of it feeling pretty overwhelming to them, and I don't want to disparage,
Well,
someone
Sammy
who's new.
is kind of newbie, like relative. Like she only did 5 weddings last year.
Right.
And what I will say is this: she has her crap together. Like her branding is solid, her films are solid. I think anyone who has like a base to their business would have got exceptionally a lot out of it.
Right.
And I do think if someone is new, they might have been like, "Whoa, I got a lot to get my crap."
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I don't say that in a disparaging way, but it would feel like you're drinking out of a fire hose, just knowing, hey, there's a lot of water in this world, and like this is there are levels, right? So I think it probably could have been valuable, but just happens that we had a lot of people that are fairly experienced running pretty successful businesses that came to clarity, and it was awesome. And also the steam room. The steam room's great. I think we have to make that a permanent fixture of any clarity moving
retreats
forward.
that don't have steam rooms.
Yes, that's it. Hopefully all at the Four Seasons too. So
Maybe
it was wonderful.
We'll do a brand deal with you, Four Seasons.
Yeah, right. Because
every time we'll make a little video for you.
Yeah, but we are talking about potentially doing more of these retreats in the future. Not sure when that would be. Probably, I don't even know.
I would say it's probably going to be similar time next year.
Yeah,
and probably New York City.
Yeah.
Anyway, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, sure. So we are doing another episode of our AMA show. Have some pretty interesting questions that were submitted, and actually kind of go with the theme that we're talking about in our little bantery intro, Jay. So this is going to work out great. The first question is from Ethan. He says, how necessary are planners into getting into high-end luxury weddings?
For me, the only possible path.
Yeah. I would say very necessarily. Next question.
Well, like, here's the thing is, like, I by no means am some expert, like in terms of, like, there are plenty of mountains we haven't climbed yet. And, like, we're not working with, like, the top of the world, right? But what I know is, like, they're the ones who are controlling the purse strings of those weddings. Like, if I want to get into a wedding at the Breakers, not that that's the end-all be-all, but I know a lot of wedding filmmakers. Thanks, Alex Douglas. I know a lot of wedding filmmakers, like, they look at something like the Breakers or these epic Lake Como weddings or just whatever it is. You see, like, the stuff that, like, House of Kirshner would do, like, is a great design company. Like, these, which, by the way, designers are not wedding planners, people, just so you know. So, like, you could have Birch Designs, and they might have Michelle Rago as the planner. Right? So you see these crazy designs that, like, Birch Designs might do, these installations, and you're like, I want to shoot that. You're not shooting that if that wedding planner doesn't want you to shoot it. Mm-hmm. Because you're not on their radar. You are not, they don't need you, like, whatever it is. If they want you to shoot it, you're probably going to shoot it.
Yeah. And
I think, like, because they'll advocate for you. So it's like, I don't know what to do with that because I realize, like, that I feel like people ask this question a lot and they're frustrated by it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Most wedding videographers get to a certain point and they're like, do I really have to work with wedding planners? And the answer is yes, you do. If you want to break that barrier and work in high-end luxury markets, there will always be a planner. Or you can do elopements, and maybe charge more money, but that's such a small market, and really, can you charge that much more money?
The bottom line is, like, anyone who's telling you you're going to charge top rate for non-luxury weddings doesn't know what they're talking about. They're lying. Mm-hmm. Because we can charge $15,000 locally at very solid high-end weddings. These are not high-end luxury weddings. If I want to charge the top of the rate, and, like, listen, if you're listening to this, if you're charging $4,000, that's great. But there are literally people charging $80,000 for wedding films. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. And it's like, that is like this tiny, 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 tiny thing.
Right.
I do think, like, to make it more normal, the most money you can make in your local market is always going to be with a planner. Like, and like, you could come at me and tell me some 2 times that's wrong. But I'm saying, like, let's just look at averages and just go, like, okay, it's 100 weddings in your market. Let's imagine there's 100. I promise you the top 10 budgets all had wedding planners. And because you got to think of, well, like, what makes this wedding luxury? They spend a lot of money per guest. Why do they do that? There's a lot of moving parts. Sometimes there's like 80 vendors, 120 people at this event. You can't run an event like that without someone running the event. And the bride's not going to do it. So it's like, it's just common sense. It's just common sense. But I don't think you have to be like this planner person and like try to get into the ultra luxury. Like you can, just like, it's not that hard to get connected to your local people.
Yeah.
Like,
I think we as wedding filmmakers have to change the conversation about wedding planners in that it's not something that you can avoid. So it's something that you have to embrace and do really well with. Like, I think it's a huge opportunity.
Well, there's
for
so many wedding
filmmakers.
planners that don't have this part of their vendor team stabilized. Even established, I was doing a consultation with someone the other day, and I was like, do you have nice planners? And they were kind of like, yeah, I know. They knew like 2 planners. And so I just started researching. And I'm like, what about this person? What about this person? What about this person? I'm looking at their events. I'm like, they do nice events. Oh, they do destination. Right. Oh, but they're based in your town. Like you can, and I look at their stuff. I'm like, they don't have anybody they're working with. You should work with them. It's like, there's a lot of opportunity out there with planners because video is pretty new to the market. So not every wedding planner has a great filmmaker that they're used to working with.
Yep. This is what I do. When I have a new wedding planner we haven't worked with, I know by the end of the experience, that wedding planner is going to know my name. They're at least going to have me on some sort of list in the back of their head of these people did a good job, hopefully. And I either want to work with them in the future or I have my team, but these guys are a good option. Like, that's my goal. So that's what everyone is up against is people like me, like you, who are going to say, hey, if I haven't worked with a wedding planner before, I at least want them to remember my name. How am I doing that? And it's right now, guys, pretty easy to do because the bar is set so low. Wedding filmmakers aren't servicing wedding planners in a way that's,
they just ignore them.
Yeah, they just say, okay, that person, I either liked or didn't like working with that person, and I want to work with them again or not work with them again. Which I don't think is necessarily the best approach. I work with plenty of other vendors that I don't necessarily like, but at the same time, I serve well and they hire me again. And we actually make the relationship maybe better over time. And I start to like them maybe a little bit more over time as that relationship grows. So anyways, I would just say with this, like, we have to rethink what the relationship is between wedding planners. It really is something you
don't
can
make
lean
it
into.
just luxury either.
Just like we're just saying planners in general.
Like planners are always going to get you bigger budgets than you would have gotten on your own. And that's a good thing. And like planners are going to help you shoot cooler films because they're going to have better designs. And that's a good thing. And, if you have the right planner, they're going to even help you do everything better. And so it's like, I think like just when you think about planners, don't just think about the top of the industry. Think about who in your area needs a filmmaker.
Yep.
It's not that complicated.
Yep. Kind of leads into our next question, which is from an anonymous member. I want to respect that, but I think it's a good question and interesting. They said, do planners get a financial kickback from vendors? We have never been booked by a planner, but have done one wedding where the bride booked us directly without the planner. This planner was a top celebrity wedding planner in our country, and the wedding budget was approximately $150,000 US. The planner staff refused to engage with us or share timelines, plans, because we weren't one of their suppliers and created a massive headache for us. Okay, hang on. This experience has made us reluctant to even try to work with planners in the future, as it seems to be a real insider versus outsider culture.
No.
When I see the videographers that do work with them, the work seems lazy. That made me wonder if there is any bribery, kickbacks, incentive involved.
$150,000 is not a celebrity wedding, first of all. So,
well, a planner that has worked celebrity weddings in the past, who's doing $150,000. I mean, it doesn't have to be a celebrity that this wedding is talking about.
So, yes, some planners do like referral fees, but I cannot imagine that person. I want to just take this anonymous filmmaker and say that I think you're wrong about everything that you said.
Well, I think that's what they're asking, Jason.
Yes.
Is if they are wrong or
I
if they're
think that they should
right.
look in the mirror, because that's just the only thing you can control, first of all. But second of all, it's like, it just doesn't. I've shot so many weddings with so many planners, and like, I guess I can't speak in every region, Jared, but like, does that make any sense to you?
From my experience, that hasn't been my experience. Why
would a planner do that?
We don't pay our wedding planners or bribe them.
Well, no, but even if it wasn't a bribe, like, why would they jeopardize the quality of their client's work and just be mean to you all day?
Oh, right. I mean, there's multiple layers to that.
That's all I could focus on. I was ignoring the bribe.
So do I think there's a world where a planner ignores a videographer? Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely.
But I don't consider that mean.
No, not mean. Do you think there's a world where a planner could make it hard for a wedding videographer to perform their duties?
Sure.
Yes. Like, I think all those things are possible. I would say the majority of the time, that is not the case. From
I don't
my
think
experience.
that somebody would do this, because this is what this person's saying.
And this also seems like, I believe they said in their country, which makes me think that it is not the United States, but I don't know.
I thought that they worked a U.S. wedding.
The planner was a top celebrity wedding planner in our country, and the wedding budget was approximately $150,000 US.
Oh. Okay. So, yes, if you are in some other country, then all bets are off. I have no idea. In the States.
Yes.
And I think this is just humanity. So I think, like, your mentality is not going to benefit you. So I think you should shift your mentality and try to move into a more productive thought process, because, like, it just doesn't make sense to me that somebody would be like, how much could that kickback even be? It's not that much money. Like, maximum $500 US. Like, if you're doing some budget, whatever, like, I think that person would be very foolish to be like, I didn't get my $500. I'm going to, like, really screw this day up. Like, I have a hard time believing people would do that consistently. Now, planners have said to me, I wanted you to work at this wedding for me. They hired some terrible company, though, and now I have to work with them. So they do say stuff like that. And if they think you're a terrible company, they don't want to work with you. Like, how would you, like, that? I don't know. Like, they don't say about everyone. Like, there are times, like, where, like, a planner will not tell me they worked with someone because they know they liked it. Mm-hmm. And they had a good time working with this person. And I find out they work with a lot of people besides me, and that's normal. But I'll find out the other times where they're like, this guy was, like, wearing the wrong clothes. He was so obnoxious. He didn't understand how to be there. Like, if you don't know how to work these types of weddings and you don't bring the right presents and the right clothing, and if you don't fit in, you have to fit in, right, Jared?
Yeah. Long question. Have a lot of thoughts on this, the long-winded question. First of all, I think I've definitely worked with planners that haven't given me the time of day over the course of our career. But I will say, by the end of the day, they warm up to me because they like me more. And if they started lukewarm on us, they really like us by the end of the day. And that's the win. Like,
I've never had a planner not be nice to me at the wedding.
Not be nice. I don't think being rude or being, mean. I haven't had someone do that necessarily. But just kind of be like, there, you like, oh, you're just the wedding filmmaker. Like, who cares about you? I have had that kind of feel and vibe with a wedding planner. But by the end of the day, they're asking about us. They're wondering how we're able to run our, just like the things that you gain someone's respect, who clearly has a lot of experience. This person has worked celebrity weddings. Like, I would hope by the end of the day, I would at least have a positive rapport with this person and wouldn't sever ties completely. Like, there's some politics there that I think wedding filmmakers would do well to learn the politics of the wedding world. So that's point number one. Point number two, in regards to kickbacks, I would say in the U.S. at least, the incentive structure is different. Kickbacks are kind of like a old school kind of approach. It's like from like the 80s and 90s. It's like, oh, you refer me, I'll give you the kickback if they hire us. Nowadays, planners are percentage based. So they're actually getting a kickback from you in a different way. like if they're going to charge, or hire a $20,000 videographer.
Yeah, top end planners are percentage based.
That's adding $20,000 to the budget, and they're making a kickback or a percentage on whatever they're hiring you for. So they actually incentivize you to have higher prices because they're getting a higher percentage of your total cost.
Which I think has nothing to do with this situation.
Nothing to do with that, but it's a different type of way that someone is getting paid, which is why a lot of planners in the really high-end market want videographers to charge a lot of money, and you should be charging a lot of money.
This is somewhat our speculation, by the way, but that this is why. But we also, it's not speculation that they're charging a percentage, and that it's just logic that like when people charge more, they make more money. That's just what happens.
Yeah. So I would say, that's my perspective. There's not a lot of like handing off of dollar bills anymore. I talked to some planners who have mentioned that in the past, and the planners that we work with, they just think it's yucky. They think it's like, I don't want to be that person. It's like a moral issue for a lot of people.
It's not
like,
cool.
It's not necessarily, I think, morally wrong, but they're like, that's not the business I want to run. Is someone who's like paying me to just work for us. I value the relationship. All of our planners will say that over and over. We value the relationship with you because you make us look good. You're a good partner, etc. And that's, I think, the approach most wedding filmmakers should have. So I would say, anonymous, don't give up on wedding planners because they could really unlock a lot of opportunity for you. And I would say, try again. That's not the experience that I've had in the most.
Well, and I'm not trying to like rag on this person, but everything about how they phrased everything showed showed insecurity.
Well, I think it maybe showed a lack of experience.
Well, that's true, but that makes you insecure. Like you feel like you're like, you don't know you're not comfortable.
Right.
And what I was trying to get wedding filmmakers to do is like, don't act like get rid of that like little brother syndrome. Mm-hmm. Like don't come in with a chip on your shoulder. Like people aren't paying me respect. That photographer ignored me. Like literally forget about that crap. Like there's some very few things that set me off, and like definitely like I'm not perfect when it comes to working with other vendors. Like there's a couple things that will make me pissed working with someone. But them respecting me or not respecting me is not on the list. I don't care because I'm just going to keep doing my thing, and like I have confidence to know that by the end of the night, they are going to respect me. Like, I don't like, there are plenty of people who I know for a fact I could have been like, oh, this person doesn't like me because this, like, and I could have bailed on it. We were talking about someone before the show, like a photographer that likes me, that it makes no sense that they like me. And I was like, I just bring some confidence and actually like, be cool and act normal.
Well, respect comes from actually just working hard and caring about your craft.
Yes. And
people see that.
And not having the posture. Like if your energy is like, no one respects me. If that's what you're thinking about while you're shooting, it's going to come out. You can't like walk in with that mentality. You have to change your mentality that like, I can't wait to work with these people. Like you have to have the mentality. Oh, I can't wait to add value. You have to show up every time you go to a wedding with the idea that this person, I have an opportunity to make their day better, and they have an opportunity to make my life better by like, we're going to collaborate. If you walk in like with like that insecure mentality that like, they got my shot one time, they're not listening. We talked about this before that we walked down the aisle and now they got my shot anyway. Like, yeah, is that a little bit frustrating? Sure. You can choose to be like, they made a mistake, or you can choose to be like, they hate filmmakers. No one respects us, and like people go down these crazy paths, and then they become, it's like their entire identity. And like, that's hard. You don't want to build your identity around like that kind of thinking because it's not going to be expansive. It holds you back.
Yep. I just want to say, guys, before we move on to the next question, so appreciative of everyone who submitted questions because it helps us just run the show. And I like this format. I think it's really great, just kind of bouncing around from topic to topic. So keep on submitting your questions. Wedding film or weddingfilm.school/AMA is where you can submit your questions. And we're going to keep on doing this periodically. I'm not sure if we've necessarily decided how often we're going to put
Well,
out these
and
shows.
I would say
but
you can also DM us on the Wedding Film School show on Instagram.
and Instagram would be good too. We'll be putting out some polls on there as well. So, okay, next question is from Brandon. We have a lot of Brandons who listen to the show and are active in the community. He says, it feels like so many of the top wedding videographers are selling courses, LUTs, or masterminds. While I can understand the allure of passive income, sometimes I wonder if it is possible to completely provide for yourself and to have an above average income just shooting and editing wedding films as a non-volume brand studio.
I mean, what do you think about that?
What do you think about it, Jay?
I mean, it's obviously you can. Like,
yeah.
like, I guess my thing would be like, are you trying to say that there are negatives to being like the face and everything of your brand, and that eventually, if you don't figure something out, you will not be able to produce income with said brand? Yes. But like, there are people who have made enough money just being with that model that they're retiring. So it's like, clearly it happens. I mean, and like, you know, you see like Storybox Cinema or people like that, like, and maybe he has a course, I don't really know, but like, nobody would ever look at him and be like, that guy's an educator.
Right.
Like, he's a filmmaker and he makes a lot of money, and I'm assuming he's going to retire fine, and he doesn't have a class. So like, clearly it's possible.
Yeah. My whole problem with the industry, not my whole problem, I guess, but a problem with the industry that I see is there's not really a lot of options for people or models for people when running a sustainable long-term type of wedding film studio or brand. The one that's been presented to the majority of people is work 30 weddings a year, charge 10 to 15K, right? That's the model. How long can you do that has always been my question. How many videographers do you see that are above 40, 45, 50? Yeah, Storybox is doing it, right? Mm-hmm. Good for them. They're at the top of the market. Larev, like, you get to these points. It can't be a majority of the people out there. And at the same time, we've always been like, we're the studio model, right? Like, we put out volume, and quality volume, I would say. But at the same time, those are the two options. And then you also have education as the parachute, right? Like, oh, well, maybe one day I'll become an educator and I'll pull the ripcord and sell a course, and that can make passive income for 10 years, which maybe. And I would also say unsustainable for 99% of the people out there.
And I would also point out, I know some of the numbers these educators are pulling on these courses, and they ain't making as much money as you think they are. They're doing good, but they're not making $1 million on their course.
And they've done well for a couple of years, but is it sustainable for 5 years? We'll see.
Or will it produce in 3 years, 30 years of income? Like there's someone like Parker Walbeck, right, who made so much money in such a short amount of time. He can do whatever he wants.
He can sell his course for $49.99 now.
Yeah.
He still does, right?
Yeah, like all that stuff. It's like,
yeah.
Are there many people doing that? No. Like, so I just want to point out, like, even in the education world, there's a lot of people doing it, but a lot of them are just making side scratch.
Right. I
and they're fine with that, by the way. There's no shade. They're just like, I want to make an extra 40 grand this year. Like, that's cool. Yeah. But if you're telling me like 40 grand is going to let you retire, it's not.
Yeah. This is my passion in the wedding education world, is finding sustainable ways to run real wedding film businesses and brands. Like, I think we found a model that's pretty sustainable. And honestly, I wish we had more competition in the space, because I actually think if there were more companies like ours, it would be way better for the industry. I want to push out all these booking agencies that are garbage. And everyone in the industry should want that too, unless you're one of these booking agencies, which is...
Or unless you're someone who makes
they're
money
not wedding filmmakers.
Telling people not to do what we do.
Right. And frankly, I mean, we were talking about it before the show, like, I have a business that I can sell to somebody. Most wedding filmmakers out there don't have a business that they can sell or even pass down to their kids one day. It's something that if they were to leave, their business would die immediately. And is that sustainable for an industry of filmmakers? Like, I don't think that's very sustainable. I don't think we should be teaching people to just solo operate like a photographer because it's not sustainable. Like, maybe it's sustainable for a while, but you're not going to be able to work into your 50s.
At least there should be multiple valid paths forward.
Right.
You know,
no one has an answer. I will say this. No one has an answer for that except for me. I'm the one who has an answer for that. So I would challenge anyone. Hey, does anyone else have an answer to owning a business and doing wedding films?
If you were to retire as a wedding filmmaker, so I think there's 3 things people would tell you. Oh, no, you shouldn't do that. This is just like a launching pad. Okay, well, my opinion, I don't know. I don't like those people educating people because I'm like, I love wedding filmmaking. Yeah. And if you think I'm wrong, well, I don't care. Like we're on totally different spectrums of like what is important to us.
Yeah.
And then I think there are people who are like, oh, make a ton of money, become a luxury wedding filmmaker. You have a 15-year window, right? And you're going to make, like, you better make, I don't know, to retire, like, you better have a left over at the end of your wedding filmmaking career, like an extra $2 million, right?
At least.
Yeah, at least. In this economy?
Yeah.
Right? But like some giant pile of money.
Right.
Which they don't tell you that. They don't say, like, they're not also teaching, like, don't spend your money because this is all the money you're ever going to make. Like, and then I think there's like a studio kind of way to retire, which is you have something and, you know, you either make a salary or it makes profit and you make distributions, who knows. But it's like, I think one of the pressures in the wedding filmmaking industry is like, whether people know it or not, the industry is driven around the high churn rate. So it's like, we don't really care, you know, because 90% of the people who do this job, who you can monetize on in an education space, are like a rotating door.
Right.
So it's like, why bother? Like, it doesn't actually help the people who are educating to help you go to the next level. Because, first of all, they don't even believe you can. They're banking on your failure.
Right.
Like, you need to fail so that someone else can take your spot.
Yes.
And, like...
Oof. Dropping truth bombs right now, dude.
And so it's like, I think that would be my beef with the whole thing is like, most people who are making choices today about their business, like I'm going to work with less clients and be more choosy, that kind of thing people say. They're not making that choice with the idea in mind that in 15 years, they're not going to want to put as much into their work, or they're going to run out of ideas, or maybe every single year you have less clients, you have less referrals. And if you don't get lucky and get into that ultra luxury space or some secured position in an industry, the lack of working with people starts to hurt your business. Mm-hmm. They're not thinking about that stuff. But like some educator told them, it'll be good. You should focus on the customers you really want. Mm-hmm. And that person has never had to focus on the customers they really want for 15 years.
Yeah.
And so like it's uncharted territory. And the amount of people who are educating people who they're not even close to retirement. They did it for 5 years. And I think, I don't have sour grapes on it. I'm not saying like they have no right. They're idiots and they're not good teachers or whatever it is. It's like, it's a gap is my point. It's a knowledge gap in the industry within a lot of people. And there's a lack of humility or maybe a lack of awareness. I don't know. So I don't know if that answers this person's question at all. But like, I do think you can. Clearly, people have done it.
Yeah, I would just say
it's hard.
There are better answers than there are better answers and worse answers to this question. I agree, it's uncharted territory. We'll see if it works for us. We might fail. I can't see myself filming actual weddings at age 50, 55. I don't see myself doing it.
No,
because who are my knees going to give out? Like, who knows, guys? Like. What happens if you're injured? You're going to have to start working at Whole Foods. Like, that's the honest truth, the hard truth for a majority of wedding filmmakers out there. They're injury away from working at Whole Foods. And that sucks. So my thing is build a brand that if you break yourself, you can fall back on that.
The only thing I always push back on that with everyone is it's not so much about being the boss of the brand. Right? because very few people can be the boss of that brand. Some people don't have
I agree. Like, being a boss isn't for everybody, but I think more people could be bosses.
This is my beef, is there's a poor infrastructure. So there's no corporate infrastructure, right? So there are no jobs for shooters and jobs for editors. So like maybe you are not running a business. Maybe you are like, my dad was a shooter. Oh, what did your dad do growing up? Oh, my dad was an editor. Oh, and then he retired and he took his 401k and he was not that anymore. It's like that job is not available. So it's not just that there isn't like a lot of people should be running studios. I think it's much more that a lot of people shouldn't be running businesses at all. They should just be workers. Because like everything about like when I'm like your brand, like, listen, dude, if you're listening to this, man, if you look at your own stuff and your own logo and your own branding and it's terrible and you have never noticed, you cannot run your own business. Because you're not in a field that makes enough revenue to hire a full-time designer all the time until you hit a level of success. Like people who are hiring these $10,000 designers are like the Smiths. The Smiths started the business and they shot 35, 40 weddings their first year. They had good taste. They didn't have to hire this person because they were pretty good on their own. You know, it was okay. And then they were like Kenneth Kevin Media. And then they were like, this isn't really our thing. We're going to revamp this and revamp this. They pay people, they pay copywriters, they pay people to do things for them. And like, they go to the next level. But like, that's a business owner. They made their own call about their own thing. They're like, this isn't what we want. The amount of people running businesses right now who I'm like, they're like, why can't I be successful? And I look and I'm like, because all these obvious things. Look at all this obvious crap that you're doing. Mm-hmm. It's not even worth explaining to you.
Right. And it is just sad that there's not the infrastructure like there is for every other industry where you could be like, hey, I'm a great editor, but I'm not a business owner. Can I get an editing job anywhere? No, because an outsourcer does as good of a job as you do. Or can I just be a shooter? No, because I don't make enough money on shooting on the front end to hire you as a full-time shooter.
Well, it's just like, the whole standardization of it is like,
yeah,
if you only had 30 possible editing opportunities, you're going to charge whatever it takes to make a living on 30 gigs. Mm-hmm. But if you had 150 editing opportunities, you might charge less because you have so many opportunities. You might hire someone. Like it's just like, it's chicken and egg thing is like, as structure is formed around industries, jobs are created and prices go down. It's not just for the customer. People are like, oh, the customer, it's cheaper for the customer. It's like, no, it's cheaper for you. You're the customer, filmmaker. You're hiring an editor and you're getting a better price. You're hiring shooters, you're getting a better price. The reason why like people are like, I'm a second shooter, I charge $2,000 a day, which is ridiculous because some people charge $2,000 to book the whole wedding. And unless you're shooting like a $40,000 wedding where you justify $2,000 a day, which is kind of, I think, too high anyway, like you would have no reason to charge that much money, and a business owner should not pay it. They don't have the margins. And it's like, but if somebody could reliably get, if they wanted to, 100 gigs a year shooting for people, and there was just a much more standardized, it's like, I don't want to bring the price down for customers, maybe a little. Like, I think it would actually benefit the industry if that $1,500 price point, the entry price point, was regulated by good filmmakers. Like, we can't change that, guys. This is just common sense. Like, you want to tell people to spend more money, they're not gonna. They don't have more money, some people. So you have to make a choice. Do you want filmmakers to provide that service, or do you want DJs?
Content creators. That's the topic.
It's not even the replacement. I saw that vendor's table episode, and I was like, which was laughable, by the way. And then hopefully they ever hear this someday. I'm like, so we have 2 photographers and did you see my response to that content creator?
Yeah.
On YouTube? And her response to me was, with the 60 weddings I've done. And I'm like, you've done 60 weddings and you're telling the entire industry how to feel about content creators? By the way, I don't have a problem with content creators at all. But like to say that content creators aren't going to take jobs away from wedding filmmakers
Well, it's the whole
They are. You literally just said some people can't afford this.
it's the whole thing that irks me is like this fake non-confrontation thing that people have. They're like, no, I would never take the. No, dude, you actually do, but it's fine. Just competition, but just like don't pretend you're nicer than anyone. I hate that stuff.
Yeah,
dude.
and it's like, why are you coming at me just because I'm taking your job away? Instead of just going like, bring it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm taking your job away, so let's
Yeah.
fight. Like, I like that. I'm all about that.
I know. We're all about that. Come on
But
the
it's
Wedding
like-
Film School show.
Yeah, but it's like you are, and that's cool, and maybe that's good for everyone. Because what I would hope happen is people get their crap together and realize like you should be okay. You have a problem with them taking your gig and they're charging $1,200. Why don't you hire some shooter, pay him $250, make a better product, and get in the market at the same price point?
Yeah, because the honest truth for content creators is this content creator world exists because wedding videographers weren't able to fill or solve a problem for wedding planners and for couples.
Exactly.
Right? That's the only reason. So, like, yeah, everyone is like, no, we're not going to give away raw footage. I refuse. Guess what? They just replaced you because you won it. So that's how industries work and are created. It's just like,
Or like
whatever the customer wants, eventually they're going to freaking get it.
Yes.
So either listen, be a good listener.
do you want content creators and DJs to take your money, or do you want wedding filmmakers to do it? And it's
Yes.
like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers this person's questions at all.
Yeah. Thank you, Brandon, for such a great question that we droned on about for a long time. Next question is from Chad. He says, man, and I love all these questions that are geared towards us specifically about educators today, guys. Thank you. Makes us seem like
We hate educators.
petty losers. Tons of educators and influencers talk about raising prices, selling a $10,000 package, earn more, shoot less, etc. What I want to know is how many couples are spending $0 to $1,000, $1 to $5,000, $5 to $10,000, and $10,000 plus.
I mean, I feel like we talked about that 100 times.
I know, but I think it's kind of. I mean, I don't have numbers.
I don't have all the
in
numbers.
front of
I know
me.
the old numbers. Like it was something like 50, whatever the base average price was, which I think went up a little bit. I think it ended up being like it was like 2,000 last time we looked.
Yeah,
Nationally,
maybe.
nationally, it was like $17 to $2,000. I think it was like 70% of couples are spending that or less.
The data is pretty gray. The Knot will say something like, right now, I bet it's like 1.3 thousand, 1.4 thousand maybe. The Wedding Report would probably say closer to 2,000 on average. But I would say the amount of people spending less than $1,000 probably, I mean, that's all like Craigslist, dude. Like no one on Thumbtack is charging $1,000 to film and edit a wedding. And if you do, maybe you're doing raw footage. It's a world that
I feel like this person's focused on the
$0 to
customer.
$1,000. I have no idea about because that's like the underbelly of the underbelly that I just have no idea what's going on there. But I bet it's a big market. A majority of people getting married are not wealthy. And that's probably what they think a videographer is going to cost. So it's probably big. I just never hear anyone in a thread charging less than $1,000.
Honestly, if I was to start a new company, Jared, I've thought about this. Well, two companies. The first one would be if this went under and I just did my own thing, I would just shoot Super 8. Because that would be fun.
Okay.
And I think I can make a little money and I wouldn't have to do any real editing.
Sure.
But two, if you just had a company that literally recorded people's speeches and ceremonies and you did it for sub $1,000, people would buy that.
Yeah, of course.
People would buy that. And and then you cut it in a terrible, like you just put it in one file, give it to them.
Well, if I was a DJ, that's exactly what I would do. I'd be like, no, you don't need to spend $2,000. That's crazy. $2,000 for a wedding film. Here, buy this for $1,000. I'll give you your ceremony and your toast.
I could get that
literally
edited
are setting up
I could get
two
that
cameras. and
edited
done.
overseas for like a max $100.
Deliver it the next day.
Like-
yes.
Pay the very worst people to shoot it. And
Yeah.
like all that junk. Or just inexperienced people, but
Yeah.
not the worst. You train them and stuff.
Yeah.
If you can learn to make a great product at that price point and it's simple and you get rid of all the cinematic stuff, I think people would buy it.
I do too. The $1,000 to $5,000 I think is a pretty big range. That's like newbie beginner range. So it's like
That's like barn weddings. That
I think the
is
vast majority. I would say 80 to 90% is in that $1,000 to $5,000.
I would break it down like this: $1,500 or less. Right?
Okay.
It's pretty similar.
Yep.
Probably. I think 15, and this is like a national average, not regional, but 15 to like 2,500 is one market. Maybe up to 3 in some markets, but like somewhere up to there. I think like 3 to 5 is another market. 5 to 10 is another market. 10, and then like once you're over 10, it's kind of like that 10. Maybe there's like a sub market like 10 to 15, especially if you're doing multi-day. And by the way, none of this is combo packs. Like all bets are off if you're doing photo and video. This is just video only pricing. Once you get over that 15, you're kind of like, you're just in that the sky's the limit world. You're dealing with some heavy players and big budgets. And so, but I think like most wedding filmmakers who can make cinematic wedding films, I think really start in that 15 to 2,500 range. That's what we would all consider to be like getting started in wedding filmmaking. Like anyone who's in these courses or watching these YouTube videos, that's what they think they're making.
Yep.
Like the stuff below that market, it's like this, it's the Wild West. I can't speak towards that. But I think like it was something like last time I looked, 2,500 to like 4,000 was like 15% of what couples spent. It's relatively small because most people aren't having weddings with all the wedding industry components.
Yeah. The way I kind of think about it, in Massachusetts, in Rhode Island, these are the areas that we are. I bet your average wedding now, I haven't seen the numbers for this year. A couple years back, they were 36,000. So I would probably say the average wedding is probably 40.
Yeah.
Let's just be conservative. Let's just say $40,000.
Maybe more because food is really inflated. So
yeah, there's potential there. That's a high That's a high market. Like we're in a top 3 market in the United States, which is the highest market in the world. So,
yeah, there are some markets in the States that are like 28.
Yeah. So I would probably say the vast majority of people in that average range of $40,000 for their overall wedding budget is probably spending, $2,000 to $3,000 on a wedding filmmaker. Would you say? Like that's probably the average. So
I think that the percentages of people in that part of the market that are getting wedding filmmakers is probably less than 50% though.
Fair.
I think like
yeah.
As budgets increase, the likelihood of having a filmmaker increases, which is why a lot of the market pushes people to that part of the market because that's where the customers are.
Yeah.
And I think it skews people's perspective because they're like, oh, I'm working this wedding and it's pretty nice. And a lot of us are working pretty nice weddings because they don't even consider hiring us at the bottom of the market.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even get inquiries from people who are like getting married at a VFW hall. Mm. They don't even reach out.
Yeah.
Like it's like not even on their radar.
Yeah.
That they would hire someone like us.
Yep.
And so it's like, are they really even potential customers? Mm-hmm. Like that's what I've always wondered about. Like what this person's wondering is like, I don't know how many of those people are actual customers that could be customers. I don't know how you take someone because like the actual averages are messed up because they take the total average and they're going like 40,000, but then they're factoring in like the weddings we might shoot that would be a $500,000 wedding, which is more than 10 times spending. So what the actual like normal person's getting married for is way less than 40. Mm-hmm. It could be, I think the average person, like 60% of America is getting married for like 12 grand.
I don't think you can get married for 12 grand.
Yeah, you can.
Have a party.
You go to your church.
Yeah. I know, but dude, if you have 100 people at a church wedding, you're still spending 12 grand.
No. You call Levas catering.
Really?
Oh yeah. This is a lot of people. This is a lot of normal people. Like think about the people you go to church with.
I tried to throw the cheapest wedding of all time, and I think we're pretty successful at it.
You were in an industry wedding, though. Like, you did the things. You were in a church. You rented out a hall.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't doing that stuff.
Yeah.
They just go to their local church. They get married. The church charges them $400 to use the basement.
Yep.
They go to the catering, and these are valid weddings. They're legitimate weddings. They have their friend, uncle set up a photo booth for them.
Yep.
Their niece who got into photography shows up and does the photography, and the local Italian restaurant caters it. Mm-hmm. And they're dropping $8,000 on this wedding. Mm-hmm. Like that's a lot of people. It's like, and they're never going to spend money on any of the things any of us are selling. Mm-hmm. Like, and less so maybe out here. You talk about freaking Oklahoma, Bible Belt people, 22-year-old kids who are just itching to have sex for the first time, getting married at their church. Like, these people they drive the price way down. And it's like, that's cool. I'm not sure there's any product, though, that these people would ever buy because it's not about that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I would probably say, if based on Chad's brackets, I don't know about the 0 to 1K. I have literally no idea. I would probably say 80% of the market is under 5K, maybe even more.
I think it's more.
You think it's like 90%?
80. Yeah, maybe changed now a little bit, but it could be 90.
90% is under the 5K.
Actually, I remember at one point, only 3% of couples spent more than 5K on video.
All right. So that already puts a majority of people listening to this podcast on our Facebook groups in a 3% column.
Yes. I think that most wedding filmmakers, wedding filmmaking in general, is really actively at the prices we need to make a living, only competing for 30% of all couples getting married.
Yes.
And everyone else is not even worth your time.
Yep.
Like, if you want to, unless you are trying to find a way to make something where you're like, are shooting like 500 weddings and you got like $300 of margin at the end and you're just making your money on crazy volume.
Yep.
But it's like, I have not seen anyone been able to do that yet.
Right.
I don't know how to do it. I would like to, but I don't know how.
So you'd probably say in that 5 to 10% market, it's probably 2.5 to almost a full 3% that is in that market. Like maybe 3% is 5 to 10K. And then the 10K plus, I would probably say you're on 0.5%, maybe.
Maybe 0.5%.
Maybe like 0.3% of people getting married are spending more than $10,000. So it's just like,
if you're charging over 10K from a standpoint of like logic, you are a luxury wedding filmmaker.
Yes.
Because you are making what would be considered by economists a luxury product, because only the top of the industry can afford it. Like, you are a luxury.
Yep.
Like, when you're charging 10 times more than a similar service to less than 1% of all buyers, that's a luxury product. And I guess I would say, like, all in all, my biggest beef with this kind of discussion is always that I've said this framework so many times, and it's like, just believe that you just understand this, like how rare it is, how unique it is, how hard it is to charge $10,000 on the regular basis. Mm-hmm. But even like if you did 20 weddings, if 4 of them are $10,000, like that's really incredibly hard to do.
Yep.
Like, you have to do a lot of things right to get into that place. And I think a lot of people feel bad and they don't realize, like, this is really hard to do. I think it's pretty easy to charge $2,500 to $5,000. That's about your product and like basic sales and marketing. Mm-hmm. So many things have to go right to get into that top 1%.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Lots of really smart people in that 5 to 10% market trying to figure out how to get into the next one. You know, it is difficult. Okay, should we do one more?
Let's save it.
Save it. All right. We've reached our cap. We can't stand it anymore. But anyways, guys, well, thank you for listening to this episode of the Wedding Film School AMA show. If you are a newbie, if you're new to Wedding Film School in general, there's a couple places that you can check us out for more content that is hopefully helpful to the success of your business, and a lot of free education here at Wedding Film School. First of all, our YouTube channel. We actually have 2 YouTube channels. One is for the Wedding Film School show, where we do our podcast and AMA section. You can watch our pretty faces as well as hear our lovely voices. But then also the Wedding Film School, which is kind of more YouTube-y content, gear reviews, behind the scenes of real, authentic weddings. That's a great place to check us out as well. And then if you are on Facebook, check out Wedding Film School there as well. We have a great group where people are posing a lot of interesting questions. We have a lot of these debates in Facebook form. Get a lot of really great input. If you're really looking to level up your game and just get around really awesome people, that is also a great place to get plugged in as well. Anything that you would like to add, Jay, before we log off?
If you want more education like this, give me $1 million and I'll do it.
Sounds good, guys. Don't do drugs. We'll see you next time on the Wedding Film School Show.